Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the NJ1ST podcast. My name is Ryan McDonald. Have another guest interview for you today. Legislative District 14, that's Central Jersey, if you will. It's Mercer County, Middlesex County. She's been on the ground a lot, been active. I met her at a grassroots event, really putting the boot to the ground. And thank you for joining me, Skye Gilmartin. And if you'd please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Assembly in New Jersey.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you taking time and doing this podcast. I've watched a few of them, and it's great the way you're helping us all get our message out to people. I greatly appreciate it, and the free speech platform is fantastic. So, yeah, I'm Skye Gilmartin. I've lived in Hightstown with my husband for 17 years. I was born in Point Pleasant, but was blessed to be raised in in Montana, which was a great, exciting place to have a childhood and good public education and very free kind of state. So when I moved to New Jersey and when I was 30, it was a little bit of a shock living in a different world here. I made some decisions when I was 18. I registered as a Republican and I decided to start a career in healthcare. So those two things and my faith have kind of driven the whole path of my life. I have worked in healthcare that my whole life. I am currently disabled from a workplace injury. So I have been doing a lot of volunteer work through that. But I started in politics pretty young. I became a pro-life activist when I was 18, which led me to the Republican Party, and began working on campaigns at about 20. I lived in South Carolina for a few years, which is a very exciting place to be politically. It's third in the nation primary, so you get to meet all the presidential candidates, and South Carolina politics is very feisty as well. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth during Newt Gingrich's contract with America, that time period. I'm aging myself here, but I am 50 years old, so I'm not old, but I'm enough of a grown-up to have lived some life and think I have some perspective to offer as an individual and as a legislator.
That's awesome. Awesome. Greg Mealy as well is around your age, and I'm finding that there's more 50 to 60-year-olds that are stepping up now. It's their turn to lead. I was getting a little ahead of myself being a millennial, saying that we should lead, and they were saying, no, there's still a generation that has so much to offer, and sounds like yourself being around the country and involved in healthcare, people's personal experiences. And so I would like to point out so early that you changed to the Republican Party, because what we're facing today is the same tale for generations. People turn to the Republican Party and see that the Democrats weren't what they thought it was. But it's all great that you did that at an early age. I'm myself from 30 and doing it maybe a little later, just like other people in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I did see that you. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I didn't have like that conversion spirit experience where I changed from a liberal to a conservative. I was blessed to be homeschooled my last couple of years of high school, and my curriculum was very patriotic and very constitutional based. I actually had to take 2 years of American government and 2 years of American history. So I got a very heavy dose of the Constitution and the background of our founding fathers, and it really instilled a very strong sense of responsibility to be involved. So in addition to volunteering on campaigns for the last 30 years of my life, I've been a committee person in 3 different states. And for 16 years here in Hightstown, I've been a municipal chair, I've been a Republican club president, and I've been a Hightstown councilwoman. So I do have a little bit of experience in being in elected office, but also understanding the grassroots of how to get things done in the community.
So walks the talk.
Community is important. I've got a variety of other volunteer work. I've worked with therapeutic riding for disabled children. I've done wildlife research, rehab. I've been on the Board of Health in Hightstown for 15 years and 15 years on the Mercer County Medical Reserve Corps, which responds to hurricanes and fires and floods and pandemics. So we were actually very busy during the last couple of years.
Wow. For more than half of my life I've been alive, you've been experienced leader in New Jersey. It's great that you outlined that. Maybe the most experience I've interviewed right now. Thank you for outlining that. And just with the other grassroots patriots, I saw you as well at the New Jersey State Board of Ed, the the testimonies that we had, and you testified.
Yes.
So
Yes, I
maybe if
did.
you want, is there anything that you'd like to say before we move on to that question? Anything else
No,
you want?
we can
Sure.
dive right in.
Go right into it. Sure. I saw you that you spoke, and there was a bunch of parents and grassroots patriots that spoke. I was able to record them and put them on my NJ1ST Facebook page. So what we're dealing with, if anybody who's watching does not know, the State Board of Ed voted 6-5, pretty narrow vote, close vote, 6-5 to change in the code to say equity instead of equality. So they're getting rid of equality, putting equity, and changing male and female to
Right.
persons, all persons. So if you want to just go ahead and take it, give your opinion, your experience that you went down, did your testimony, anything.
Sure. I was actually at the original meeting in August when they passed that, and I watched their deliberation. There was a standing room only room, majority of parents and grassroots people in opposition to what they were changing in the Chapter 7. They did not allow public comment. I understand that that's their policy. They only have set public comment days, so that wasn't one of them. But there was a lot of people there. There was actually a point where it got a little bit rowdy, and they immediately went into recess, which is not appropriate according to parliamentary procedure or Robert's Rules of Orders.
Robert's rules.
Yeah, they didn't follow their own policy. It was offensive how many people didn't really even understand the policies that they were voting on. There were people that were confused about what the words meant. They hadn't even read their packet. And there was a really strong push to table it and to even approach Governor Murphy about having more time to implement this so it could be researched more further. And even that was voted down on a 6-5 line as well. So it was, again, it appeared to be a very disinformed vote that could have been handled a lot more professionally.
Mm-hmm. And
I
the board got the ear full of it, definitely.
Oh, yes, they did. And going into that, they gotten over 600 public comments and emails.
Right.
And most of them admitted that they hadn't read most of them.
Right. Yeah, there was, yeah. And even the NJEA vice president that spoke in my room was making it out to seem that there was all the research done, well, there's all these other parents who want to get their input and they're not being heard. And if there's anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I think what a lot of people are upset about and what a lot of our legislators are upset about was this was not just a, a change in terminology or a small change. This was a policy change, and that should have been handled legislatively.
Mm-hmm.
Legislators have to be accountable to the people that put them in office, and that absolutely should have been handled that way. And I know that there were 16 legislators that wrote a letter back and sent it to them back in August stating that they should not even have been addressing this.
You're correct.
Yes, I did speak at the meeting. I don't know if you have access. I can send you the video of my speech because I don't think you were in my room. There was so many of us that they had to split us into 3 rooms, and they split the commissioners or board members into the different rooms. So it was unfortunate that everybody didn't get to hear everyone's testimony. But
Right.
again, it was standing room only kind of day. It was great to see that level of activism from all over the state, especially considering it was the middle of a work day and almost 150 people showed up to testify. That's powerful.
It was.
And
go ahead.
My topic, I know there was a lot to unpack that day, but I focused on the parental notification of the transgender situation. And I came at it from a pretty sympathetic standpoint, not wanting to be, I wanted to get their attention. So rather than coming at them with fire and brimstone, I talked about the fact that gender dysphoria is truly a mental illness and needs to be treated as such. It has all the same hallmarks of anorexia, bulimia, depression, anxiety. And if any children are known to be or cutting, any children that are found by the school to be experiencing those kind of disorders, they immediately go to the family because that's where the best mental health care is going to come from. So why would we separate out this other mental illness? And my fear, because with the transgender community, the rate of suicide is 7.6%. So are we going to wait until we see children taking their lives and then find out that the teachers knew they were going through a mental health struggle and didn't share that with the parents. I think that's going to be devastating, and I hope we don't have to wait until we get there.
I think that was perfectly said. I'm not going to add anything else to that because I want people to take exactly what you said, and that mental health did dwindle in the media. It was a very big part of my education being brought up,
Mhm.
2010, 2011, 2012, and then all of a sudden the media stopped talking about it. It really is important, and we're not making fun of LGBT, transgender.
No,
It's something very important. Mental health. It's epidemic.
I mean, I do believe there is a almost cultish social contagion
Hmm.
aspect to the explosion of gender dysphoria, if you want to call it that, over
Hmm.
just the last couple years. Whereas, 20 years ago, it might have been like 0.2%. And now
Hmm.
we're seeing that like 15% of high schoolers identify as something
Right.
other than their um, heterosexual at the
And
very least.
and this is the proverbial culture war that's been going on. And myself, I made a speech. It was asked to make a speech at on May 5th, I think, or May of this year, down in Trenton on the Annex. We rallied, and it
I
was
was
against
there.
the. You were there as well. Awesome. That was, and I made a speech against the LGBT curriculum. And I liked how you just said before the legislators would be held responsible, the ones who making their vote, rather than these bureaucrats in Trenton. And I got in a little trouble because I look at the votes. I look at the way that our Republican representatives vote, and everybody voted no on kindergarten through 12th grade. But there were Republicans, and this is what I made my speech on. There were Republicans like Brian Bergen who voted for 9 through 12, grades 9 through 12. And I've spoken to him for 2 years now. He's tried to skirt around it. I finally got him to admit he doesn't support K through 12, but he does support 9 through 12 LGBT curriculum. And
Interesting.
my question for you is, and the reason I'll reiterate, the reason in my speech is that in university, at higher education, there is this cultural Marxism indoctrination that is seeping down into our high school curriculum. And
Absolutely.
my
That
question
is
for you
valid.
is, would you vote for a LGBT curriculum for high schoolers? Is
No,
that enough? Okay.
no, I wouldn't. I think those are things that we discover on our own innately in our dating life, in our family life, in our community. I don't think that needs to be taught in public school. And I
And
am absolutely disgusted at what's been implemented in the K to 2 level
mm,
curriculum, words and subjects that those children shouldn't even have to hear, never mind
right.
define.
And I
Um,
think that's what the parental rights are even more stressing about, is those little ones. Why are we even talking about it with them? That's where it
no,
really comes up, right?
no, I mean, life is sexualizing children. Hollywood is sexualizing children enough as it is. We don't need the school system to be doing that as well.
Couldn't said it any better than myself, than
And
yourself.
it
And
comes down to the books too. I've had my hands on dozens of these books. I haven't just heard about them. I've read passages. I've seen the images. There's material in these books that if you were to read it to your 8-year-old next door neighbor, you could be arrested under Megan's law. But
okay.
yet it's okay to have these in a grade school library. And these books are being put into the libraries in packages by the LGBTQ community. There's like a package of over 100 books that are being inserted into libraries. Librarians aren't seeking these books out. I
Hmm.
believe the librarian at Hamilton High School, one of Hamilton High Schools, just quit over this issue.
It's getting too hot.
On a positive note, I think you probably heard about Hanover.
Correct.
The what's the name of the policy? 5-7.
Five
Oh,
something. You're right. It does
yeah,
start with a five. You're right.
it does. It's 5-7 5-7 5-6.
Excellent.
That all these lawsuits are about. Hanover, it just came down in Hanover that the deputy attorney general has came out and said that that policy is a recommendation. It is not mandatory. So that should be the end of these lawsuits. And
Hmm.
I've also heard that upwards of 20 other school districts right now are looking at just removing the whole policy. So
You're
that
up to date. You're up to date on the ball. We need you in Trenton. We need you in Trenton.
we do need me in Trenton. We need a lot of people like me in Trenton.
Hmm.
That's the problem. Even if I get elected, if my running mates, Pat Johnson for Senate and Adam Elias, get elected, that is not enough. We need a majority.
Hmm.
The sad thing, I'm sure you know this, there's a lot of great legislation being written in Trenton. John DeMeo has a great school funding plan that would cut everybody's property taxes by 6 to 7%. Mike Testa has a ton of tough on crime bills that we need right now in the face of crime. But because we're in the minority, none of these ideas can get out of committee. They just go
Hmm.
there and drown. Ed Durr writes good bills every couple of weeks, and we are not seeing them move. And it doesn't matter how good they are. The Democrats just refuse to support even the best ideas.
Hmm. And I've been nudging some Republicans to co-sponsor Ed Durr's bills because you're right, he has been putting out great legislation. But this is a great point to segue. As you said, the majority is what you need if you want to even play the game. If you even want to play ball, you need a majority. And up
Yes,
here in North New Jersey, Robert Auth, bless his heart, has been for the last 2 years pushing vote by mail on that basis, saying, I don't care if you don't like vote by mail. I don't care if you think it's fraudulent. Vote if you can't make it to the polls. If you can't vote early, I'm saying vote early, but if you can't vote
I
early, can't make it to the polls, vote through mail and then gain a majority, and then we'll change it. That's what he's saying. The
right.
majority is the goal, the majority.
I
Now,
and I
yeah,
I parrot those exact words.
awesome.
I don't love vote by mail. Most of us don't, and I do people if they tell people if they're going to vote by mail to put it in the drop box, not to use the postal system. Yeah, it's much more reliable. There's cameras on those drop boxes, and we all know things get lost in the mail. And we've heard too many stories about postal trucks dumping piles of ballots in the
Mhm.
woods. So I'm telling
And
people to vote early, but especially if they're older or infirm and a bad day could stop them from going to the polls, an illness, a sick child, rain, get that vote by mail ballot and it's going to
mhm,
sit on your counter and it's going to sit there and you're going to be reminded every day. They're going out on the 23rd. They're coming. Election
mhm,
starts in about a week. So, as much as we don't love it, we have to push it. They have mastered it, and we're
mhm.
playing catch up on that. But take advantage of all three options. But turnout is going to be key for Republicans this year. There's there's a few of us in targeted districts where the modeling and polling is showing that's a really close election. So if we can get a gubernatorial year turnout in this, what is usually a very low turnout year, we could win these seats and take the majority. I do have a true belief that we could do that if we can manage to get out the vote.
Nice, excellent. And what I'll say is people will hear drop boxes right away and get triggered, deservedly so. But we
2,000
all have
rules.
two thousand mules. You see the corruption that can happen with them. But like Skye just mentioned, at least it's recorded, and you have evidence that maybe you could hold up in court and say that there was fraudulence that occurred. So that's the point that she's making. I want to ask if Mercer County 2022 election audit. I did a video with those who did the audit. If you haven't seen that, I would very much love for you to watch that because they were successful, not in overturning anything, but exposing what happened. So this was last year, 2022, the election in November, and all the numbers, all the audit, they had to file Oprah requests to get it. They
Mhm.
weren't given the information. So we have
Yes.
everything. And I don't know if you're familiar with those people, but I'll get you in touch with those people again. If any nefarious skedaddle stuff happens in November for your election in Mercer County, because that's where the tabulators went down for the whole
Yes,
day.
we
If
were
any
the Maricopa County of New
mhm,
Jersey
of New
last year.
Jersey, that's a good headline I might take. But if this happens, don't concede. We'll try and get people, some
For
lawyers for
sure.
you, some help, so we can show and expose that there is fraud. I mean, even if they do cheat, just like we've seen other times, it's not whether or not you want to call it cheating or not, whether or not they win. There's no real chance of overturning stuff, but showing people and maybe changing stuff in the future, like you said, get a majority. But I'm just letting you know, there's people in Mercer County, I'm sure you know, that'll help you if there's some circus stuff going on. And we want you to fight. You're a fighter, I know you are, and we'll
I
fight
am.
with you.
I'm actually involved with the Mercer County Election Integrity Group.
Good.
I
That's
was
them. Yep.
I was very hands-on in that election. This was before I was even thinking about running for office, but I was a challenger on election day. So I
Mhm.
got a phone call very early in the
Awesome.
morning, and I was at least 6 different polling sites. It was chaos. There was very little communication that came down from the county to the individual polling places. Nobody knew what they were doing at the end of the night. Some people were putting bags of ballots in Ubers and sending
Mm.
them to Spruce Street. There was ballots that came in, bags of ballots that came in unsealed
Wow.
with ballots overflowing. My running mate Pat Johnson was there that whole all the nights of the counting. She was at least 20 different polling stations, and we saw nothing but chaos. I've even been told by municipal clerks that they had very little direction from the county on how to proceed.
Mm.
Some of them were sending the ballots with police officers. That's what my town of Hightstown did, which was the professional thing to do. But like I said, other towns stuck them in Ubers, and
Mm.
and multiple bags would arrive separately from the same polling site, hours apart from each other. So when you talk about shenanigans, yes, there was there are, I think, between 600 and 700 people who filled out provisional ballots, because at the beginning of the morning, that was the first directive. So those people would go and they would sign into the ebook, and then that's when the voting machine didn't work. So they were told to fill out a provisional ballot. I can tell you that at least 600 people got letters saying your provisional ballot was not accepted because you voted by machine. Well,
Mm.
obviously, they did not vote by machine because none of the machines worked. So,
Right.
how many people got truly disenfranchised in this election?
You're
And
right.
how many small town council or school board elections are won and lost by way less than 600 people? So,
That's what it is.
the,
That's
my
the biggest point. Yeah.
yeah, the amount of, I'm not saying there was absolute fraud, but the negligence and malfeasance that went into not just election day, but the days following, there was there was just no accountability. I went to all the board of election meetings. I went to the county commissioner meetings after that. I heard Paula, our county clerk, admit that she made a decision to change the paper after
Hmm.
the initial test was done,
I heard that too.
but she is not, nobody's taken any accountability, and there's been nothing done to remedy it. I do
Oh,
know we're voting this year with the same machines that we used for early voting, which I believe are a little more reliable, and hopefully the same mistakes won't be done. But after witnessing that last year, and after witnessing all the craziness of 2020, it's a little daunting going into an election and hoping it's going to be fair, especially in a county like Mercer and Middlesex, which have complete Democrat control.
100% right. Anyone listening, please get in touch with Skye Gilmartin. She knows what she's talking about. Help her. We got to get her in there. And you're correct. I listened to those testimonies too. It was the Mercer County Election Integrity Project. The people who I had the interview with for the audit was New Jersey Stand Up, I believe, but it's all the same
I'm a
patriots.
member of that group too. I'm
Awesome.
actually
And
I actually just got endorsed by that group.
awesome. Awesome. Um, Shout out to Hillary Jersey. But
Hillary Jersey is rocks. She is
yes.
a mover and a shaker, and she's been a great blessing to my campaign.
Awesome. And I just wanted to finish up on that, saying that during the testimony, the Mercer County clerk or whoever you were just talking about, who said
Mhm.
that it wasn't her mistake or something. And then the Dominion representative that was there testified and said that she was the one that told him, like, yeah, it was her mistake. She's the one
Yeah,
that told him to do it, to change the code.
yeah.
Specifically, that's what it was.
I heard her admit it. I was in the
Oh,
room.
and I
So
don't know if she's still running or running again or whatever, but we
she's
can.
up for reelection next year. So let's find somebody good.
Ah,
Put
I
the word
like the way you're thinking. Awesome. Yeah. And we can finish up on free speech ranting. I, I have a feeling you can talk on the DOJ report for the veterans homes and stuff like that. I just heard Steve Dinistrian speak on that with on public news. So do you know what happened with all that?
I know a little bit about it. I was relieved to finally see the report, but
Hmm.
I was horrified to read the contents. Um, I believe they had reported 174 deaths between Menlo Park and Paramus,
Hmm.
and that number is closer to 200. But that number is also expected to be much higher because they weren't adequately testing people. So we will never know the true number. And again, I think so much comes back to transparency and accountability. Vin Gopal is the head of the committee that is above those groups, and he is accepting no responsibility. He, by the way, is who's running against Steve Dinistrian. So
Right.
I'm sure Steve has a lot to say about that. Governor Murphy, who made the decision to push those sick people into these facilities that are already full with immunocompromised and sick people, has taken no responsibility. I read a great quote the other day. Somebody said, look at the number of people that went to jail after Bridgegate. No one was hurt in Bridgegate, but yet our veterans who fought and died so we can have free speech right here died that miserable, lonely death without their family because of decisions made by our government, and nobody's being held accountable.
And the post-mortem that Governor Murphy promised us never came. We never investigated, never looked into it. Even the children's gap of education, just the health of people in general.
No,
Yeah.
Nia Gill was the only Democrat who actually voted in favor of that investigation, and I commend her bravery for doing that. But
Oh, I'll have to look into that. Okay.
that was just deplorable. You know, one of the things I like to say is I will fight for your rights and liberty, but I will always care for the least of these. And
Mm.
the least of these to me definitely includes our senior citizens, our people in long-term care, and our veterans. And that was just
Mhm.
deplorable. I can't think of a better word. Malfeasance, evil.
It sucks that Hillary Clinton took that word from us, right? We can't call anyone deplorable
Oh, I
now
know.
without it seeming like we're on her side or something
Oh,
like
have
that.
I have a shirt that says it, and I wear it with pride.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And yourself being in healthcare, if you want to touch on this, yesterday I made a video and it went viral. Donald Trump's probably the only and biggest criticism that people can have against him, even his own supporters, is just the big pharma tie with Pfizer. But the vaccines, the mandates, everyone goes right for the mandates. He wasn't in supportive of the mandates. We understand, and we are so thankful for him for that.
Mhm.
The problem that people have, I suppose, is the efficacy of these vaccines. Are they even vaccines? It's very conspiratorial. We are getting evidence, or I guess facts now from CDC and WHO that is now contradicting what they used to say.
Finally,
So right, and it seems like it's all going to happen again. Maybe they're going to have
I
another
think
one
they're
that comes for
rampant.
2024.
They are
So
ramping it up right now. We're
yourself being a healthcare professional or experienced,
Mhm.
maybe you can just give the viewers some good words of wisdom of what your opinion is. What now? Your own postmortem.
Now I'm on the postmortem. I think this was a huge money-making adventure for Pfizer and Moderna. I think they made $88 billion and counting. I believe the dictionary and the CDC actually changed the definition of vaccine because I'm vaccinated against measles, so I would
Okay.
have no problem rolling around and tickling and playing with a kid with measles because my vaccine will work. I worked in healthcare, so I had to have the hepatitis vaccine. Yes, of course, you wear gloves, but I didn't worry about bloodborne pathogens and things of that nature because that vaccine worked. But now it's been proven that the most boosted patients have a higher rate of getting COVID, a
Hmm.
significantly higher rate. So not only is it not protective, it's the side effects are outrageous, and that's finally coming to light as well. I proudly say that I am not vaccinated. It was challenging, and if I was not disabled right now, because I have worked in the medical field as a cardiovascular technologist, I would have had to lose my job. Now we let all those brave nurses and nursing assistants and doctors be on the front lines before we knew what COVID was, before we had a vaccine, when we didn't have enough PPE, and so many of them got sick. And then when this questionable vaccine came out, we fired them and sent them home. And how horrible is that? New Jersey has one of the worst nursing shortages in the country, and this is how we treat our frontline heroes.
Well, I
Not
didn't
just
know
New
that.
Jersey, but it's horrendous. Yes, we have a very aging population and
Hmm.
a shortage of nurses, a shortage of allied health professionals, and shortage of primary care doctors.
I've seen the 300 nurses are on strike in New Jersey right now because of staffing
Yes,
ratios, like you just mentioned, actually. So maybe if you'd like to come on podcast again, we can talk about that. Maybe even have one of their representatives. That'd be awesome.
I would
But
love
yeah,
to. I actually worked at
awesome.
Robert Wood Johnson Hospital
That's the one.
in New Brunswick, which is where they are striking now, and
Ooh,
I
we'll set
saw
that up.
that firsthand. So, and I
I'll try
was
and set that
the
up.
allied health professional working below the nurses, helping them out, and we were all overburdened and understaffed constantly, and that only hurts the patient.
Hmm.
Medical care is just getting more and more expensive. Medications are getting more and more expensive, and patients are getting less bang for their buck, shall we say.
Hmm. So my last question would be if they try this again in 2024 to scare us, right? It was more fear. Um, People are saying do not comply.
Absolutely.
Is that what you would say as well? Do not comply.
Yes. Do
Right.
not comply.
Awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for joining me, Skye Gilmartin, Legislative District 14. That's Mercer County and Middlesex County. If you could lastly tell us where they could reach you, your campaign, and then anything else you would like to tell us.
Of
Floor is yours.
course. District 14 is Hamilton and Robbinsville and Hightstown and East Windsor in Mercer County. It's Monroe, Jamesburg, Cranberry, and Plainsboro in Middlesex County. You can find me at Skye for Assembly on Facebook, Instagram, and .com is my website. You can donate there. You can find out about me. You can read press releases. And please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Been doing door to door for months, but that's ramping up a lot right now. So if you're interested in joining our team, get in touch with me. My phone number is 908-510-7906. I would love to walk with you. I'd love to talk with you and hear your views on the issues. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the
Awesome.
time.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining. Follow the NJ First podcast at NJ1ST at Ryan McDonald USA. Please help Skye Gilmartin, very intelligent and beautiful woman running down there in Central Jersey in the swamp. Thank you for watching, guys. See you later.
Thank you.